Cześć, tutaj Moni and welcome to Learn Polish with Advance. And today we're starting a quite challenging subject, which is the aspect of the verb. Many learners find it quite challenging and confusing, so I'm going to take it step by step and explain it to you clearly so you know what the aspect is all about. So let me start with what is it at all. Let me call it a grammatical phenomenon. Okay, it's going to help us name it in this way. So it's a grammatical phenomenon which is linked with verbs. So verbs, 99.9 of them in Polish, right, will have either imperfective or perfective aspect. So you know, for instance, you know the verb czytać, don't you? You know that means to read. You know this is the verb that conjugates in third conjugation, czytam, czytasz. It belongs to third conjugation, czytam, czytasz, czyta, right? So you know that verb. But what if I told you that there is another verb to read? That's this one. Look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to add a prefix, prze, to our czytać, and that also means to read. So this means to read, and this also means to read, but there is a significant difference between this verb, to read, and this one. And I'm going to tell you what is the difference today and why it is so important. So the difference, as you may suspect, is the aspect. Okay. Here I added a prefix prze, right, and that made adding that prefix prze made this verb czytać perfective. Now, just take it slowly. Take it slowly. If it's a little bit too challenging, stop the video, stop the lesson, and go back to the very beginning. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but I'm sure you can grasp it. So, once again, so czytać and przeczytać both mean to read. But what is then the difference and why it matters? Why it matters that this is imperfective aspect and this is perfective aspect. By the way, I put here niedokonane. This niedokonany aspect means in Polish imperfective aspect, so that means the verb is imperfective, and dokonany aspect means that the verb is perfective. You can in dictionaries you can find niedokonany, dokonane, so it's quite important for you to learn this word, because in many dictionaries you will find this as an important information. So when I conjugate the verb that is imperfective, czytać, you need to know, you need to learn, and you will be starting with to do that today. When you conjugate the verb that is imperfective in present tense, like we did so far, right? Czytam, czytasz, czyta. That means either I am reading, especially if I add czytam teraz, the word now, as we don't really have the present continuous tense, I am doing something. Very often in Polish we help ourselves adding the word teraz, which means now, almost as if to say I read now, right? But it means I'm reading, either I'm reading or I read, czytam, okay? Now look what happens when I do exactly the same with the perfective aspect of this verb. So if I say przeczytam, so look, I'm conjugating czytać as I do in present tense, but this time I'm doing that with prefix because I'm taking the perfective verb. That takes me to the future. That means I will read. So what happened here? My tense changed. This time I'm talking about something that I will do. So something which is specified in English with a tense, right? We've got person, we've got the modal verb will, and then we've got the verb I will do, I will cook, I will go, I will have, I will sing, I will dance, what have you, right? In Polish is done not by tense, but by the aspect, right? By the perfective verb conjugated in present tense. So let me say it again so that you can get the idea. Ignore for now what we've got here, okay? Ignore, and also ignore this. I'm going to talk about it in a second soon. So ignore it for now. We are here in this lesson. So we've got two verbs that mean the same. Czytać means to read, and przeczytać means to read. You will have to learn what is the perfective partner, if you like, of each verb. Most of them will have perfective partners. Most will do. Some of them won't. There is a list of verbs that don't have perfective form, and it's just a few of them. So we can really say that 99.9 of verbs are perfective, to have the perfective partner, if you like. So this is our example today. When we conjugate imperfective verb, and so far in my course I gave you only imperfectives, so don't worry, you haven't learned any perfective forms, okay? So whatever you learned in the previous lesson when we conjugated czytać, mieć, rozumieć, pić, pisać, right? They were all imperfective verbs. So far all verbs that you know are imperfective. From now on, as you may predict, you will learn the perfective aspects of them. And this is your first lesson. This is your first attempt to understand the aspect. So when I conjugate the imperfective verb, like I do with czytać, I have either I am reading or I read. Czytam teraz would be I am reading. Somebody just decided to mow the lawn, so I had to close the window, sorry. So when we conjugate czytać and add teraz, that would be the equivalent of I am reading, right? I'm reading now. So czytam teraz, czytasz teraz, czyta teraz, ona czyta teraz, she is reading now, on czyta teraz. If we take away teraz, now, the word now, she reads, I read, czytam, czytasz, czyta, right? However, take the perfective form, przeczytać, and you have to learn that the perfective partner of czytać is przeczytać, right? Some verbs will have different prefixes, like u or z. So it's not that easy that every single verb, perfective verb in Polish will have the prefix prze, and you sort it. The difficulty of this is that verbs will have different prefixes. Some will have shortened form and will conjugate differently. So that's your difficulty, but needn't to worry. You will do this, you will learn it, and it's really doable. And you can learn that without any difficulty. The key to that is understanding the concept, okay? So, przeczytać, your first lesson here is to understand and remember that przeczytać is the perfective partner of czytać, and when you keep conjugating przeczytać in the way in present tense and the way that you do with the same verb in imperfective, so as an imperfective aspect, so czytam, czytasz, but przeczytam, przeczytasz, so nothing changes apart from the fact that there is a prefix there. This means you will do that action, and hang on a second here, not will be doing, that will be an entirely different thing, will do. So remember, not the ing form, will be doing, no, will do, okay? That's your will do here. This is this thing here, okay? You will read, przeczytasz. I will read, przeczytam. You will read, przeczytasz. She will read, ona przeczyta. He will read, try guessing, on przeczyta. We will read, przeczytamy. You, plural, will read, przeczytacie. They will read, oni przeczytają. So get that concept right. Will do something, not will be doing or will have done, nothing like that. Will do. Okay? Now, present tense conjugation of the imperfective verb will give us either I am doing something, in this instance this is I am reading, or I do something, right? I read. Okay, so we already said that. So here we can cross this out now, right? We know that we can conjugate imperfective verb, and it will, in present tense, it will give us present. However, now think about it. I conjugated perfective verb present in a present way, if you like, and it took me to future, right? Didn't it? We were saying I will read. Yeah, that's future tense. So we can draw the conclusion that perfective verbs don't have present form. You cannot say that you are doing or you do something using these verbs. They will either take you to the future, as you just seen, or they will take you to the past. You will observe that in a second. So there is no present form of perfective verbs. You cannot say something that you do or you are doing using the perfective forms. They are not designed for you to do that. These are. So only by conjugating imperfective verbs, you can say that you are doing something or you do something. Okay? So in other words, imperfective aspect, conjugated, right? Verbs with imperfective aspects, conjugated in present tense, have present tense. But verbs with perfective aspects, conjugated in present tense, take us to the future. So therefore this UFO spaceship here, future, think future. Okay, no present tense for perfective verbs. Now, imperfective verbs will also enable us to say that we were doing something. Okay? So again, listen to what I'm saying. I was doing something. You were doing something. She was doing something, right? This will be achieved by adding different ending. I'm not going to say more about that. I'm not going to throw endings now and tell you how to do it. It's just to grasp this lesson. It's all about the concept of aspect and tenses. Okay, so you know roughly what you are going to learn. Okay, and how it's going to be done. I'm going to do it with you, right? We're going to have lessons on that, so you will be learning that with me. So I'm going just to say a few sentences in the past so you can listen to it, but I'm not going to type anything. So if I said czytałam, adding one, I'm going to say that I was reading. Okay, so just by adding some endings, different endings to imperfective verbs, we will be saying that we were doing something. Okay? And as they are very consequent in the appearance and function, in other words, if you like, we also will be able to say that we will be doing something using imperfective verb. Okay? So if I said będę czytać or będę czytała using the imperfective verbs, I will be saying I will be reading. Okay? So once again, let's go back so we are not confused too much. I can specify past, the past, say something happened in the past by using imperfective verb. But how I'm going to do it? I will be saying that in the past, I was doing something. So this is my past using imperfective verb. I was doing something. You were doing something. We were, you were, they were doing something, right? Were doing, was doing, were doing. I can, as you know, this is what you learned so far. You can also specify present tense, build present tense using imperfective verb by conjugating it, like we did so far. And you are then saying that you are either doing something, you can even put the word teraz now there, or you do something, czytam, czytasz, czyta, this is your present tense. Or you can also build the future tense using these verbs, but you will be doing that with a specific way, saying, I will be reading. Okay, this is very important for you to grasp that. I will be reading, you will be reading. So in other words, that kind of ings, tak? Let me call it czasowniki gerundowe, right? Let me call it as one of my students does, gerund, right? Yes, so ing, this is the domain, this is something that, let me put this in this word, these verbs are proud of, okay? I am doing, I was doing, I will be doing, right? So, in other words, we are kind of focusing on the action itself, not whether it's done or will finish. We are kind of looking at the action really here with imperfectives. I am doing something, I do. I was doing something, or what were you doing? Tell me. So action is important, and I will be doing something. What will you be doing? Right? So action is important here. We already said that there is no present tense with perfective verbs, because if I conjugate them as I normally do, they take me to future. But I can also change the endings, add different endings to this verb, and it will take me to the past, right? And when it takes me to the past, it will allow me to say what I did. Now, notice the difference. Not what I was doing. So not focusing on the action itself, but whether this action is finished, right? I did it. I finished it, right? So, in other words, it's important for these types of verbs, this perfective aspect, whether I will do something, I will finish, or I finished, right? Not the action itself is important, but the completeness of the action, in other words. Yeah, I will do it. You'll see. I did it. Yay. Perfective, no present tense, but the imperfective aspect focuses itself on the action. I will be doing it. I am doing it. I was doing it, right? So I understand, I appreciate, rather, that it could be a challenging concept. And many teachers or tutors don't even know how to explain it in a right way. And also for those of you who are fluent or just seeking some clarification here, you may have been taught differently, and I also appreciate that. Some of you may say it's far stretched if we compare it to the English language like that in English tenses. Also, in sense, you are right, but throughout my career, I can assure you it worked. It enabled my students to say what they wanted to say and say it correctly. So it works. And I think if it works, why reinventing the wheel? It just works. So that's something that you need to grasp before you actually go into learning how to say, learning about the tenses. So before I go into teaching my students about past, future, and present, so before even we go into any tenses in Polish, I introduce aspect, because without that, as you can see, whole idea about tenses, it's completely illogical, right? So you need to know what aspect is. So again, it's a phenomenon, let's call it a grammatical phenomenon, linked with verbs. We know that verbs, majority of them in Polish, have partners, perfective and imperfective partners, so they work in, let's say, tandems, right? And by choosing the right aspect, I specify the tense, whether it's future, whether something I did, not only a tense, you can also see that you can specify whether the action is complete or ongoing, whether you focus on the action or focus on the finished action. So aspect is something that you need to know. So just a little bit more for advanced students here. But it also will have the basic students, maybe not advanced, intermediate students. It will help you also understanding that for the future. Some verbs don't have. We say that 99.9, so little percent of Polish verbs won't have the perfective partners. So in order to, you may say, so how do we then say that we did something or will do something? There will be a way of saying that using just imperfective verbs. You will be taught that. There will be a way of doing that. You will have to give a little bit more information in a sentence so that it will be clear for somebody, right? As you cannot specify it by the aspect, you will have to add a little bit more to the sentence, but it's doable, so don't worry. But we also have a specific group of verbs which are called double imperfectives. These are usually verbs, motion verbs connected with motion. And the best example to show you are these two verbs, iść and chodzić. Iść, iść, right? It's a irregular verb. We conjugated idę, idziesz, idzie. We had that in the previous lesson. Idziemy, idziecie, idą. So that's our present tense conjugation. I am going, you are going, or you go, right? You are going, I am going, you are going, she is going, and so on and so forth, right? But these types of verbs, motion verbs, also they are double imperfectives because they have two forms. One is determinate. You don't even have to worry about this strange vocabulary here, right? This lingo. But let me just tell you so that you know. Some of you are perfectionists and want to know it all, so this is for you. They're double imperfectives, and they have two forms. That's why we call them double imperfectives. They have a form that is determinate and another form that is indeterminate. Determinate form will allow you to specify that you're doing something right now. Indeterminate will allow you to say that you do something habitually, frequently. There will be frequency inbuilt, imprinted in these verbs. So the difference between idę and chodzę is idę means I'm going somewhere right now, There could be another translation, but don't worry about it for now. I'm going somewhere right now. Idę do sklepu. I'm going to the shop right now. But chodzę do sklepu will mean I go frequently to the shop. I'm doing shopping. Chodzę do sklepu. I go in order to get shopping done. Okay? So idę na siłownię means I'm going to the gym right now. Chodzę na siłownię means I go to the gym right now. So in other words, right, this difference, I am doing something and I do, for double imperfectives is specified by determinate form and indeterminate form. Okay, so once again, czytać is not a double imperfective, right? So by conjugating it in the present tense, I can be saying, or I'm saying actually, either I am reading or I read, right? But those verbs which are double imperfectives, in Polish they usually specify motion, like I go, to go, to swim, to carry, to drive, I'm just trying to think what others we've got, to fly, for instance, right? These two forms that you see here, something, I am doing something, I am flying and I fly, I am driving and I drive, I am going and I go. This will be specified by two different forms, right? The doing form will be the determinate form and do form will be indeterminate form, right? And learning that is really important because very often, right, students worry, oh, I've got this iść and chodzić. They both mean to go, but what is the difference, right? Why? What is the difference? Well, the difference is the determinate form. So you're doing something right now, you're going somewhere, or you go somewhere frequently. So indeterminate form will always have some kind of frequency meaning in them when it comes to motion, right? So if you fly to a different country quite often, or not even often, could be never, because it always actually the word never also specifies the frequency, how often you fly, never, right? So if you can only get the meaning of how often you do something, right, you will be with a motion verb. I fly often, I never fly. I drive often, I never drive. That will be your indeterminate form that you will be using, right? But using the motion verb, if you want to say that you are doing something right now, right, you don't have to even use the word teraz in that instance, because you've got two forms to specify that, right? So I'm flying, I'm going, I'm driving, I'm carrying something, right? This will be specified by determinate form. And determinate form verbs, imperfective verbs with a determinate form, maybe that, right, will have also perfective partners. In other words, you will be able to say that you will fly or you flew somewhere. You will go or you went somewhere, right? So this is pójść is the verb that is the perfective partner of iść. Indeterminate forms won't have the perfective partners. We will have to just do what we do with czytać. We will have a specific way of creating the past and the future. I will be going frequently somewhere, right? And I was going frequently somewhere in the past. That will be your only option when it comes to indeterminate form. So again, when it comes to indeterminate and determinate forms, with determinate form, you're saying that you are going somewhere, right? And you can, as this these verbs have perfective partners, you are able to say that you will go somewhere and you went somewhere. In determinate form, also conjugates in the present tense, right? As this is the imperfective verb, right? But it doesn't have the perfective partner. So you don't need to ask yourself why, okay, here. This is not the case. This is not the right approach. Don't ask why they don't have that. Because simply they actually have, determinate have, so we already have that form. We don't need another one, in other words, right? So this is your answer. Why? Because we already have one. So chodzić, right, tells us, if you conjugate this verb in a present tense, and it tells us that you go somewhere with some kind of frequency, never often, once a week, once a year, once 10 years, once a fortnight, for instance. And with this form, if you change the endings, as you will learn that in the future, you will be able to say that you were going, right? Remember the inks, were going somewhere frequently, or you will be going to the gym pretty soon. You will be working out there, right? So this is the idea. This is actually all that I can tell you about the aspect. The key now is to practice this, learning which is the right form of the imperfective verbs. In other words, learning the partners now, which we will be doing very soon. Right? We will take all verbs that we had in previous lessons, and you will be learning the perfective partners of them, and you also will be learning the conjugation again, and the meaning behind them. Right? We will start with perfective forms, not the conjugation, not this. Right? We will do this. We will do future first. Yeah. Present and future. I hope it gives you a little bit of clarification. If you find it too challenging, or if you have any questions, don't hesitate to write a comment. This is just the beginning, so don't feel like this is all that you need to understand at this stage. It will get clearer as we go. Okay, it will become easier for you. In other words, so don't stress, don't worry too much. You needn't worry. Thank you very much for this lesson, and I will see you next time for a little bit more on aspect of the verbs. Dziękuję. Pa!